Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Pickleball Grit, based out of Peachtree Corners, Georgia, here in just north of Atlanta, really. Great weather today. It's going to get hot this weekend. I have a great guest here, though, probably in a hotter place than I am, maybe. Hey, Mike. This is Mike
How you
Nealy
doing,
from
Rico?
USA Pickleball.
Yeah,
Well, how is the weather out there? You're in Arizona, I think?
I'm coming to you from Scottsdale here, and yeah, we're known to have our heat about this time of the year. It's gotten well, I think we hit 112 the other day, but
Wow. Wow.
as we like to say here, dry heat, of course, but it's
Yes.
still cooling down enough at night. It's tolerable, but yeah, we know the heat's here, and we deal with it.
That's funny. Yeah, we don't have dry heat. I was very humid, but at least we don't have the weather down in Florida. We're not getting floods at this point, so I think we're good.
Well,
Um,
but we're both capable of having a good enough weather. We're playing pickleball, I'll tell you that.
yes, we are, and it's a growing sport here in Atlanta. So I'm glad to have you on with us to talk a bit about, you just a year ago, June 15th, we're right on the mark. You became
Right.
CEO of USA Pickleball, um, which was actually up until I got involved, I didn't realize how old the organization is, which goes back 40 years. Because
Sure.
most people, I think pickleball is like a young sport, like not a young person sport, but a young sport, being like 15 years, 20 years. Big.
Yeah.
This association goes back to, was in 1884. 1884.
I think you said 1884. I wouldn't say it's
Ah,
1884.
did I say
1984, yeah.
18?
No, but you're hit a couple things. I think both.
Yeah,
People don't know that, but the sport was invented in '65, so the
right.
sport itself goes way back. But yeah, the initial organization, as far as the a governing body attempt at the organization, does go back to '84. Um,
Yeah.
Technically, the this our current organization, which was kind of came in from that, was more in the early 2000s, but
Hmm.
a lot has happened, and especially in the recent years, as everybody's probably noticed, that pickleball has exploded much more recently, and
Yeah.
it's a game it's growing for a reason.
Yeah. And it needs someone to guide it, if you will, that's experiencing growth in this, to bring this further along, because obviously pickleball was more of a recreational sport for quite a while, even with the governing body, right? Um, Very different. But your background comes from the Fiesta Bowl, from hockey. Can you tell us a little bit about that, where you've come from and how you came to where you are?
Yeah, I don't know how far back we want to go, but I found myself in the world of sports some years ago into the hockey side, up in Minnesota originally. But yeah, I spent many years in the NHL in a franchise organizations and ultimately being the president of the local Phoenix Coyotes, which became the Arizona Coyotes, which now unfortunately are the Utah something.
Mm,
So
right. Yeah.
that has moved on. But years back, though, I made a transition into the collegiate football side and local here with the Fiesta Bowl, which many people, if you follow collegiate football, one of the
Hmm.
main recently New Year's Six games, putting on national events for high end college bowl process. So managing, through those entities, and I don't know if you could say either fortunate or unfortunate. There were some big issues having to deal with, in some of my career, dealing with some things, and maybe that prepared me to come into yet another avenue of sport. This is
Yeah.
quite a bit different, actually. We can get into some of that, but my background, I think, prepared me for some of the chaos that pickleball is going through right now. And I'll say chaos. I don't mean that as a negative word, but
No,
boy,
no,
we're just growing so fast, and so many things are happening. It's
right.
where do you put your attention to, and there's so many opportunities, and there's a lot of different players, if you will, in the
Hmm.
space. And as a governing body, we're trying to do what we feel is most important to support the sport.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, you were credited with bringing Fiesta Bowl to where it went. It wasn't as good as it was, right? Is what I
Yeah,
understand.
sure, sure.
So being able to do that, almost coming from that background into this, and you're right. I mean, the sport is growing phenomenal. You have business interests, all sorts of companies coming into this space, and that could be overwhelming to an organization even,
Yeah.
because everyone wants a piece of the pie. They want a big piece of the pie and stuff. So what are the challenges that when you first stepped into it, what are the challenges that you thought you saw that that maybe weren't real challenges at the time, and you found out more as you got into
Yeah.
it?
Well, I think you kind of referenced, that this game grew so fast, and really it hit, a hockey stick growth, and continues to be. As an organization. It wasn't that long ago where this organization was operated by volunteers, and almost strictly volunteers. The volunteer board.
Hmm.
I think it was not till 2012 where the first paid employee came on
Right.
board, and
Wow.
grew into, now we have, I think, 35 full-time employees right now. So that gives you a sense that, but 5 years ago I think there was, maybe 7 or 8. So
Yeah.
um, challenges coming in as this organization and the needs to deliver what we want to deliver. There were a lot of just blocking and tackle things that initially with, just systems, financial systems, and just your traditional structures
Hmm.
of an organization that needed to get up to speed because it grew so fast. So for us able just to be doing some of the internal work that we need to do was a big task in itself. But
Hmm.
as it grew, and thank goodness, I think, well, I'll say thank goodness, but COVID was a big driver, I think, of people being able to get outside and play something, and this
Right.
sport took advantage of that, or people took advantage of being able to play pickleball and got exposed to it. I'm a firm
Hmm.
believer, if you get exposed to this game, you start playing it, you're going to fall in love with it. And I wouldn't take any credit for some master marketing plan for growing this sport. I think
Mm.
people get exposed to it, and it's growing pretty organically. But also credit to those professional tours that popped up, and the
Right.
league, the MLP leagues that popped up years back. That
Yeah.
gave a lot of attention, I think, maybe nationally, to for people to say, okay, what is going on with this? Maybe I need to check this out. And I would say I
Hmm.
put myself in that list where I knew about the game. I hadn't played it. This goes back a couple of years. I finally had a friend and his wife that dragged me out, and myself and my wife out, and got exposed to it, and realized, hey, this is a pretty fun game. And then I started playing it with some consistency, and then this opportunity came along a year ago,
Yeah.
and here I am.
Wow. I mean, that's yeah. That gotta be a different feeling when you're playing it, and it's just a recreational thing for you. And now all of a sudden you're running the organization that is the organization for the sport.
Sure.
Um, you guys set standards too, I think, right? I mean, there's balls that have to be a certain way. I mean, it's probably been a wild, wild west to some degree in some places, I bet, with paddles and all that. So, is that part of what the organization does too? Set some standards
Yeah,
along those
yeah,
ways.
yeah, absolutely. And maybe for the listeners, I mean, to clarify, as a governing body, and as far as it changed, I mean, I came from actually from a team situation
Hmm.
to running an event for four teams stuff. But this is a governing body situation. So yeah, very important is the setting the rules, the standards, equipment
Right.
standards, testing and certifying equipment, to make sure that there's some consistency,
Right.
safety, all things. And they had a good start with that. And then as far as the process and sanctioning, those paddles, for instance, and you may be
Right.
surprised, or people might be surprised. I think there might be 1,600 manufacturers right now that are out there listed that are making paddles. So and it's not slowing down. So that's a
No.
big part of what we do as an organization is
Yeah.
to make sure that those paddles go through a testing process that are certified to make sure that they're consistent and ready for certification and for
Right.
sanctioned play.
Right. Right. I mean, it's one thing using paddles for recreational play. That's fine. But yes, when you talk about sanctioned play, tournaments and such. And Shopify doesn't make it easy because anyone can go out there and go sell now.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah. Very true.
so
Very true.
yeah, yes. I mean, just get a Shopify card and just go a store and just go. So the growth, the grassroots part, right? So that's always tough, right? So you have, for example, if I look at tennis. here in Atlanta in the metro area. Alta's big, right? Um, they most of it's league play. It's all league play, right? It's not really professional. But then you have USTA, which does the tennis open. So different organizations doing different things, handling grassroots from the local level on up to the national level. You were talking about sports coming in, like PPA, Vizzy Open, Atlanta, and stuff like that. Um, and you're right. I mean, it just seems more of these tournaments are coming out. Um, does USA Pickleball get involved in all of these? I mean, or these organizers want to work with you all on this, or are they doing their own thing as they go?
Sure, there's a mix of any and all of what you just described there. Yeah, at the tournament play, I mean, you get the professional play, right, in the league stuff, but at the tournament play, which the PPA and APP put on tournaments or tour, a touring throughout the whole year, and
Yeah.
with professional players. Um, our role in that is, we certainly want to and work with those entities in ideally sanctioning the tournament play,
Hmm. Hmm.
working with them in other capacities as possible as a governing body. And maybe I should clarify. It's been the growth has been great, but if you take all the tournament players and I don't have the exact number, but you're talking 100,000 maybe players or
Hmm.
so that is really the group that are playing in a tournament base. Well, there's depending on who you're talking to, there's 14 to 30 million people that are playing this game. So this kind of gets
Yes.
back into our role, and I
Yeah.
think we probably played a pretty strong relationship and focus on with the tournaments and the growth because that was really driving a lot of growth. But we are the governing body for mostly the casual players, the recreational side, and so
Okay.
that's one of the transitions, kind of getting into, what is USAP focusing on and what are we doing for growth? And part of our mission is we want to grow and support the sport. Yes, that includes supporting and working with the APPs, PPA and whatnot.
Yeah.
But there's millions of players that are out there and facilitating the growth, communication materials, and we are a membership organization.
Right.
So, we are, part of our business plan, if you will, is to grow our membership base. So that's a big piece of how we fund ourselves. We are a nonprofit,
Right.
with the direction of growing and supporting the sport. So that's a big piece of our focus.
So does that, pardon my ignorance a little bit on this. I know, for example, USTA does the national part for tennis, then they have state organization, then they have a city organization. So there's USTA Atlanta, for example. They're running their own, I think on their own, they're running their own pickleball league, separate from the tennis part, although the national organization doesn't get involved. Alta's doing its own pickleball leagues also. They're a nonprofit organization. Do you see USA Pickleball um, going that route to some degree, creating localized subchapters, if you will, to run, or do you see it differently?
That would be down the road. I mean, tennis has been around and structured tennis
Oh,
and
yeah,
USTA been around for a much longer time, and their resources are certainly much
yeah,
larger than what we have at this point. Yeah, do I like to see pickleball grow to the extent where we would necessitate being able to needing regional structure to facilitate what we want to get done. I can see that for sure.
okay.
Right now we're not at that level, but growing fast and certainly on the mind. Okay, what is the best way to be delivering what on our mission going forward? That certainly is on the list.
Okay. And I know organizations like this want to, one of the big things is you want to promote the sport and get as many people involved. Do you see anything in this, going down, zoning it down to schools, promoting it through schools as well? I mean, is there a game plan down the line of doing something like that, either schools or camps, youth camps?
Yeah, there is, and through our youth programming and just in getting proliferating this game into those areas that you're talking about. a lot of discussion and plans to be, pushing out the availability, instruction, and growing. Trying to, work with, state high school associations, collegiate levels. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. It's a little fragmented right now. I think, in one hand,
Sure.
it's great that more and more people are playing. We'll do what we can to make sure that we try to connect and have it structured ideally within the USAP structure and membership program. You mentioned leagues. Leagues is not something that we had been
Mhm.
involved with to date, but we are going to be rolling out USA Pickleball leagues as
Very good.
well.
Okay.
This is also in the near term. Within a month here, we'll be announcing our membership structure. We're actually changing our membership structure, expanding it a little bit to be conducive, both for better, approaching with the recreational players, along with players that want to be competitive in a more competitive event, in the touring stops and or
Sure.
just tournaments. Tournaments themselves. A lot of tournaments have popped up and grown like crazy as well. And
Oh yeah.
also, as important and part of our function as well, is supporting the growth of this game through the facilities. We're involved right now. There's hundreds of millions of dollars of facilities that we're working with in conjunction to grow the sport and growing the access to the sport. That's one of the issues that the sport has right now, is that the demand is much larger than the supply of court spaces right now. So that is a
Yes.
continued nice problem to have, but a lot of courts are coming online, but we're still certainly far short of what we could use.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I mean, you talk about franchises coming in doing places like Dill Dinker, where they want to just set up 12 courts somewhere. Just real simple, just repurpose an old warehouse, maybe resurface and put in 12 courts somewhere. And then you have places here in Atlanta, in the metro area, like Pickle and Social, where it's pretty much it's more than it's 15 courts indoors and outdoors, restaurant, other aspects to it, pro shops, where it becomes more of an attraction place for families to go and play and eat and all that. Um, so yeah, I mean, just and even cities. I know the city we live, they've already put a study together, and they want to be able to put together, I think, about 30 courts, so this way they can attract regional play here in
Sure.
Peachtree Corners. So
Yep.
um, so it's an interesting growth path. There's so many different avenues that this can go out, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been
Do,
a good over 200% increase just in the last few years, and again, SFIA, is published numbers every year, and
yeah,
um, yeah, they're noting, avid players. There's 14 million people that are playing on a consistent level, and our
amazing.
trajectory. You brought up tennis here before too. That our
Yeah,
trajectory, I think, in a couple of years, to be surpassing the number of tennis players, which to me that is just
really.
unbelievable to be thinking about. Um, you know, in a
Wow.
short order, getting on par with the number of people that are playing tennis.
Wow. I got to
And tennis
believe having,
is growing too. We're just growing a lot faster right now.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's a lot more runway for you all for pickleball to be going. I mean, tennis is somewhat of a mature sport, although, you'll find tennis teams at high schools, college level, pros, and all that. But but pickleball has a unique aspect to it, right? So tennis, you're playing maybe three. You could be playing three sets if you're just doing league play, or even just pickup play. You might be doing two sets. It's a 2 hour game, maybe, depending on how you're doing it. Big court, whereas pickleball, small court, maybe a 20-minute game. Maybe it's one of these open play where you just do a pickup game with anyone that's there. They're doing that at parks here in the metro area. So you'll have county and city parks that have dedicated or lined pickleball courts, and you could just show up if there's an open play between, that afternoon on a Saturday. Show up and you could just play with anyone. Plus, if you're drinking beer, you're swapping out players, just going.
Sure.
Okay, Jim, come on in. You're next.
Well, it's a very welcoming game, and you're describing, I think, what everybody is appealed to. You can get to the community court. You got instant friends, if you will, and it's been a welcoming group of people that come on in. And I witnessed
Yeah.
that myself a couple years back. New guy didn't feel real comfortable. You kind of walk in there, hey, come on in, let's play, kind of show you how to play. It's a very welcoming. It's very conducive to. I mean, it's not even necessarily gender specific. You get out there and
Right.
you can play against different ages and genders, and the play is
Yeah.
it's more about the fun and the camaraderie. I mean, I hear it tell you I've heard more stories of almost life changing for people.
Mm.
From people that were maybe sedentary but got talked into it and found this is something they could do, and they found a whole nother social avenue for their life. There's stories of how it changed my life. The
Yeah.
numbers obviously speak for themselves as far as the amount of people that are continuing to play this. And then I think we probably touch on this too. I mean, this sport, in my perception as well. I mean, years ago, this was a game largely being played at retirement areas, right? So
Yeah.
it was kind of as an older person's game. And what, by the way, they're still playing in masses, but the largest group of people that are playing right now, I think, is a 29 to 35-year-old range. And so this is getting younger and younger, and I can attest to that. I have a just turned 19-year-old, and he's been playing it for a couple of years. And
Really.
maybe I don't think it's cool now. So
Ah.
it's great to see. But that, and to that,
Yeah.
it is being. It is being played at the youth level. The younger, the generations playing it, and you are starting to see it pop into the high schools. You're starting to see it clubs at collegiate levels, and yeah, it's going to find its way in a little bit more structured, I believe, in those areas for sure.
Yeah. It seems like it. I mean, the age, the median age, I guess, has been dropping over the last three
Yeah,
years
for sure.
dramatically.
Yeah,
Right? I think
absolutely.
it was 38. Now it's 34. It just keeps dropping. I don't know how far it can drop, but it just keeps going. Um,
Well, I was
maybe.
we were at a tournament, I guess it's been a couple of weeks ago, and I watched an 11-year-old gal uh, take a gold medal. I mean, it was one of our
Really.
golden ticket events. That is your path
Yeah.
to nationals. We can get into that. We talk about it a little bit, but watched her beat three adults. Really, I mean, these were this is an 11-year-old that got out there, and so yeah, the youth are coming.
That must have been the TikTok video I saw. 2 11-year-olds took over like these 20-year-old kids and just destroyed them.
Well,
Um,
the best player in the game, Anna Lee, when I think she just turned
yes,
17. She's
yes,
been a champion for years already,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
amazing. I mean, I just saw her. She was playing here for the PPA Vizzy Open at Lifetime, um,
yep,
and I was like, wow, just amazing. I mean, just the amount of people that showed up for the game, and like you said before, though, the interesting part to me was so you had the pros there. They're playing for a purse, for money, right? You have all
yep,
the vendors, you have all that, but then as I went deeper into the environment and into the area, you have all these courts in the back, and you got these people, hundreds of people, because they have a lot of courts there. And apparently they could put two on a court easy, if not, yeah, two on a court they had, I think, on each tennis court and lined. But you had hundreds of people just out there playing, paying to play to get a ribbon or some sort of thing says maybe they made it somewhere. Um, but they were all enjoying themselves. Families were there. They were picnicking as they were waiting for their turn and stuff.
sure.
It was a cool event. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, those tours have done a good job of, they're also an, amateur side of that. That feeds a lot of those events. Exciting to have the pros playing, but, most people there are your recreational or amateur players that are playing
yeah.
for the fun of the game.
Yeah, yeah, and for sure. I mean, some of them that we met a YouTube content creator, and that he was there for that. That's what he does. He plays pickleball. He has like 32,000 followers, and he just does his thing and makes a
Yeah,
living, I guess.
for
Um,
sure.
let's talk a little bit about technology too, right? Um, how do you think the role of technology may help develop the game? I know there's a lot of apps out there. There's a lot of apps trying to get people into the game, connecting people to games and stuff. Is that something that you think USA Pickleball will get involved in, or are there brands approaching you to do any of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's technology plays a role in everything we do these days, of course, and I think it is helping this game as well. Big part of we talking about the tournaments. A big part of tournaments, you need some unique software to run these tournaments. You have 1,000 people playing in multiple different matches as they happen pretty quickly, court assignments and stuff. It's
Right.
much more complicated than you would think to keep that
Mm.
tournament operating efficiently and in utilization. So that there's a very unique softwares, and there's a few competitors that are out there, which drives that. Also, when you're playing competitively, and then even recreationally, that rating, so who you're playing
Right.
against is
Right.
important, and that's one of the things that's also um, there's multiple ratings that are out there too. So that's part of a little bit of the wild west of this sport,
Mm.
where a lot of people got into it. There was initially a rating, but then multiple ratings kind of popped in. I'd say unfortunately a little bit right now we have multiple ratings, so there's not real consistency
Mhm.
right now, and there's some shortfalls in these new earlier versions of ratings. But ideally, what you want is when you want to play against likewise uh, skilled players,
Sure.
and ideally you have a rating that accurately tracks that and measures the ability of players. And right
Yeah.
now, we haven't got this, but as USAP, we do operate a handful of tournaments ourselves as feeders to our national tournament. There are multiple golden ticket events, is what they are,
Mhm.
that you need to win a golden ticket at one of these events to advance into nationals.
Okay.
We run anywhere from 12 to maybe 15, 16 one day on how many golden tickets that we have. I'm not,
Mm.
as an organization, we do want to, and one of the changes that I made coming in is to actually own and actually operate some of these events. Back to my Fiesta Bowl days,
Okay.
that was a pretty big event, and we did a lot of
Yeah.
events throughout the year. I was fortunate enough to have some members of the Fiesta Bowl event people that were looking to change their careers, and so we had the
Mm.
capacity to take on running events ourselves, which there's a economic course for that, but we also, from a
Sure.
brand standpoint and making sure, controlling the brand of the golden tickets and getting to nationals. But we also team up with other entities currently this year with the APP Tour and
Okay.
UTR Sports to actually operate some of those golden ticket events under our, I would say oversight, but conditions of the
Right.
branding and things, to making sure it's a great experience for the mostly for the recreational players wanting and moving on into nationals, which is the goal.
Is that like a little like when we run the marathon here in Atlanta, there's qualifying events to be able to get into that because there's a limited space of runners that can be allowed. Is that a bit like that with some of these? Are you looking? I mean, I know you want to run all the events yourself, or at least someone's running it for you. But could there be other qualifying events to get into that golden ticket, or does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Um, yeah, well, the golden ticket really is the qualifying event, and you remember a
Okay.
good, because I used to be, I had a few years of a running problem, and I know what you're talking about. Qualify, the big deal was to qualify and to go to at the
Right.
time, Boston was the pinnacle, but you need to qualify to get
Mm-hmm.
there, and so it's a
Yeah.
little bit like that. Um,
Okay.
the we should start with the nationals being the pinnacle event, right? In pickleball,
Mm-hmm.
nationals is the goal for those competitive players that want to be at the pinnacle, including professionals. To win nationals is a big deal. We
Sure.
had regional and qualifying events, and quite frankly, I thought it was a little confusing when I came in. We had some Diamond Series things from regional sides. We had some golden tickets that fed into it. It was a little bit confusing. So
Mm.
from a marketing or clarification, this year we try to message a little more clearly what the golden tickets were, what it meant, and how that they were that path to get to nationals. And specifically, my goal is not to have how many people we can get to an event at nationals. It's making sure it's important and that you are earning your way to nationals. That was a big
Right.
piece of what we were accomplishing this year.
Wow.
So there's other, again, there's other groups that are out there that, like you mentioned, the PPA. They are talking
Yeah.
about a championship series, and they're doing something that's totally different. That is not nationals or the path to nationals, but
I gotcha.
that's a little bit part of the Wild West, where there's a lot of options that are out there. As
Yeah.
again, back to the governing body, having sanctioned tournaments. We want them. They do mean something. We want them to mean something.
Hmm.
And that was our goal, is to grow the sport, and ideally in the tournament space, through sanctioning.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, to be able to do that, and the sport, even though it's 40 years old, well, older than that, but the organization itself, right, is 40. It's gonna still take time, right? Because as the sport grows, I mean,
Well,
where's it? Pickleball TV now. Um, there's there's still a lot of growth coming on this. It's just
oh, sure, sure. Yeah, the growth of the sport, these people playing it, but yeah, what comes along with that? There are a lot of financial opportunities, and you're seeing that everything from equipment
yes,
manufacturers to, you
right,
mentioned, uh, pickleball sites, restaurant type of branding things. You see those
yes,
are popping up to
yeah,
older department stores, areas that are being converted
for
into
sure.
pickleball,
Yes,
community
yes,
building, converting tennis and or building pickleball specific
yeah,
facilities, because the demand is there, and that
yeah,
growth and the money to be made in that is out there.
yeah. And you're getting like places like Lifetime Fitness, which is a national um, fitness place with tennis and pickleball, all of a sudden partnering with brands like Lululemon. So there's also a lot of brands coming in that are not ignoring the space. So as much as you're right, there may be 1,600 different paddles out there. At some point, these things will start consolidating, I think, and things will shake out a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's a natural, I think, occurrence, and you'll see some consolidation and but we're still probably, still in the Wild West stage of things, which
Hmm.
is a good thing in many ways. And back to, uh, as a governing body, I think it's just important for us to stick to our mission. It's easy to get distracted and maybe, chasing, squirrels, that are, popping up, but our core mission of growing and supporting the sport, and being the governing body, and ultimately, I would love to see, and I would expect this sport, with its growth and international growth, we're going to see this very likely could become an Olympic sport one day, and that would be good for the sport.
Absolutely, I could see that happening too. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Um, are there so I mean, what would you say to someone that wants to get involved in pickleball, either as a player or as a supporter? Um, what route, if they're a business owner that wants to get involved in the sport, or if they're a player that wants to, or they're doing their own camps. I mean, what advice would you give them from your point of view?
Boy, there's certainly a lot of resources if you go to our website, both on finding places to play. I mean, the easy part is, as a player, how do I get involved? Get
Right.
yourself a racket, and you don't have to go out and spend and get the top end racket right off the bat, but get yourself hold of a racket. You can find in that community place to play and show up, is a starting point. There's also
Right.
clubs, you mentioned Lifetime, but then there's a lot of clubs that are out there. If it's something you want to get serious into, there's a lot of places to join, and immerse yourself in, playing the game as often as possible. So that's probably the starting point. Or find someone that, I'm sure anybody that's other that if they're listening to this, maybe they're already involved in pickleball in some way. But
Hmm.
it grab that friend. You guys, if you're playing, grab that neighbor and grab those friends and get them out there and help them get exposed to it. But there are a lot of resources on our website as well,
And th-
to find where places are to play.
and that's usapickleball.org, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
cool. So, Mike, we're at the tail end of our conversation today. Um, Did I leave anything out? Is there anything you'd like to share that we didn't touch upon?
No, I'll tell you, I appreciate because I know what's happening. Maybe what I would notice, as an organization, we didn't touch on, we have ambassadors, and these are people that are just excited about the sport. We have over 2,200 USA pickleball ambassadors across the United States. So that, by the way, that's another source. You can go to our website, we can connect you with our ambassadors, and there's a great source of knowledge and just interest in getting people involved in the game.
Hmm.
And that's a wonderful asset that we have out there. So there's another resource for people. And a big thank you, because I think that group of ambassadors is as responsible probably as anything else, from growing from a grassroots level, just finding people on the court playing next maybe to people that are playing tennis, somebody that's watching, wondering what's going on, and then having that invite to say, hey, come in and join us. I mean, and then once you get somebody, I think, on the court with a paddle in their hand, they're going to get
Yes.
sucked in. It's a great game.
I think you're right, because when I play tennis on the weekend, and I'm a C-level player, okay, there'll be people that say, "Did you try pickleball yet? I just did that last weekend. It's a great game, and you need to be doing it too." And it's like they want to suck you right into it. It's amazing. But
No, it's not a bad thing. I think I'm looking forward to some of the studies that'll continue to come out on just the benefits of it.
yeah,
It's a, yeah, like anything, you need to warm up and be smart about, your skills and your
yes,
level of your play. But it's a little less demanding on the body. You can play it for longer times, and
hmm
it's just fun. That whole social side of it,
yeah.
is very appealing.
Well, I was excited to have the opportunity to interview you, to get to know a little bit more about USA Pickleball, and to know you a little better. I know you have two kids. One of them, obviously, you said before, plays at pickleball. Uh, do both kids do that, or does your
Oh
wife
yeah.
also participate? Everyone? Is
Oh,
it a
yeah.
family?
Yeah, it started with my wife and I playing this. We got introduced by our
Okay.
friends, and then although I found out my son was playing it in middle school years earlier, that I just didn't even know he had been doing that. But
Oh,
and
wow.
this is a kid, again, he's 19 years old. He's a pretty competitive hockey player. Him and his hockey buddies play pickleball
Huh.
often as another outlet, about something fun to do. So,
Right.
and my daughter, absolutely, she plays.
All right.
And
Cool.
sadly, I think they're playing more often than I do now, because I'm just kind of stuck on time and availability of playing. So I'm jealous that they're
Right.
playing more than I am.
You'll get there at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, we've been speaking to Mike Nealy from USA Pickleball. It's been a great conversation, Mike. Appreciate you being with us. Stay with me for a little bit as we sign off. But thank you, everyone else. There'll be links in the show notes and additional information. Certainly, check out our magazine once it launches in July. It's Atlanta Pickleball Magazine, and you can go to our website and follow us on Instagram. But thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.